I never wanted to join the family business. After graduating from college with honors in financial management, my dreams were set on making my own mark in the corporate world. Several prestigious companies had already shown interest in my resume, and I was excited about building my career from scratch. But life had other plans. My name is Alice Chen, and I was always the responsible one, while my older brother Tommy was the golden child who could do no wrong. He got the newest gadgets, the fanciest clothes, and most importantly, our parents' undivided attention. I learned early on to be self-sufficient, throwing myself into studies and working part-time at our company during summers to earn my own money. Chen Global Trading had been in our family for 3 generations. My great-grandfather started it with just 2 shipping containers of electronics from Taiwan. By the time my father took over, it had grown into a respectable mid-sized company handling imports from all across Asia. I knew the business inside and out from my summer jobs, but I never thought I'd end up running it. That was supposed to be Tommy's destiny. "Alice, we need to talk," my father said one evening, his voice unusually serious. I had just finished telling him about a promising interview with Goldman Sachs over dinner at his office. "What's wrong, Dad?" He gestured for me to sit down, his face lined with worry. "The company, it's not doing well. We're losing money faster than ever before." I felt my stomach tighten. I thought Tommy was learning the ropes? "You always said he'd take over." Dad's face flushed with embarrassment. "Your brother, he's not ready. Yesterday, he expense reported a $5,000 dinner with clients at that new French restaurant. When I asked him about the business discussed, he couldn't remember a single detail." "And what does this have to do with me?" I asked, although I was beginning to see where this was going. "I need you to take over as CEO," he said simply. "You're smart, responsible, and you know the business. The company needs you, Alice." I sat there, stunned. For years, I'd been told this was Tommy's birthright. Now suddenly, because he couldn't handle it, they wanted me to step in and fix everything? "What about my own career plans?" I protested. "I've worked hard for this, Dad. I have interviews lined up." "This is our family's legacy," he interrupted, his voice cracking slightly. "Your great-grandfather built this company from nothing. Are you really going to let it fail?" I looked at the old black and white photo on his wall, my great-grandfather standing proudly in front of his first warehouse. The weight of 3 generations of family history pressed down on my shoulders. "Tommy won't like this," I said finally. Dad sighed. "Let me handle your brother. Will you do it?" I stared out the window at the city skyline, watching my carefully planned future slip away. "Yes," I heard myself say. "I'll do it." My first day as CEO of Chen Global Trading felt surreal. Walking through the familiar hallways, I was greeted by faces I'd known since I was a teenager running errands and filing paperwork during summer breaks. I spent the next 2 weeks buried in financial reports, my financial management degree finally proving useful in ways I hadn't expected. Mrs. Rodriguez, our head of accounting, and her team were invaluable, providing me with years of records and explaining various accounting practices that had become standard under my brother's influence. "I hate to show you this," Mrs. Rodriguez said one evening, placing a thick folder on my desk. "But you need to see where the money's really going." The numbers told a story of systematic mismanagement and wasteful spending. But it was when I started digging into the expense reports that my blood really began to boil. The documents revealed a pattern of excessive spending that made my stomach turn. An $80,000 Tesla Model S purchased 6 months ago under transportation expenses. A $12,000 monthly rent for a penthouse apartment in downtown, listed as client entertainment facilities. A $25,000 shopping spree at Armani, somehow classified as professional development expenses. "Has my father seen these reports?" I asked Mrs. Rodriguez. She shook her head. "Tommy always had a way of presenting things differently to your father." More vaguely. The details got buried in broader categories. I stayed late into the night, poring over every detail. The more I looked, the more I found. Weekend trips to Vegas labeled as client relationship building. Designer suits and watches filed under professional image maintenance. The company was bleeding money through 1,000 expensive cuts, all traced back to my brother's spending habits. By the end of my audit, I had made my decision. I drafted a new company expense policy, one that would eliminate all these excessive privileges. Everyone, including Tommy and myself, would operate on base salary alone. No more luxury cars, no more penthouse apartments, no more shopping sprees disguised as business expenses. As I finished typing the last page of the new policy, I glanced at the old black and white photo of my great-grandfather on the wall. "I'm going to fix this," I promised him silently. "Whatever it takes." I knew the storm that was coming. Tommy wouldn't take these changes lying down. But I had the numbers, the documentation, and most importantly, the authority to make these necessary changes. Let him try to justify $1,200 swimming trunks as a business expense to my face. I was reviewing supplier contracts when my office door burst open with such force that it bounced off the wall. Tommy stormed in, his face red with rage, waving a copy of the new expense policy I distributed that morning. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, slamming the document onto my desk. "You think you can just walk in here and take everything away from me?" I kept my voice steady. "These are necessary changes to save the company, Tommy." "Bullshit. You've always been jealous of me. Always trying to prove you're better than me. And now you're using Dad's temporary insanity to push me out." "No one is pushing you out," I said. "But the company can't afford to bankroll your lifestyle anymore." "My lifestyle?" He laughed bitterly. "I bring in half our clients. You think they want to meet in some cheap restaurant? Drive around in a Toyota? They want to do business with a solvent company," I countered. "Which we won't be if." "Screw you, Alice." He kicked my visitor's chair across the room. "You're nothing but a jealous bitch who couldn't stand seeing me succeed. I'm calling Dad." He stormed out, leaving papers scattered across my floor. I knew exactly where this was heading. Sure enough, that Saturday at our family dinner, I could feel the tension as soon as I walked in. Mom was unusually quiet as she served the pot roast, and Dad kept clearing his throat, his nervous tell. Finally, Mom couldn't hold back anymore. "Alice, don't you think you're being a little harsh with your brother? He's worked so hard for the company." "Has he?" I reached for my briefcase. I'd come prepared for this. "Would you like to see exactly how Tommy's been working hard with company money?" I spread out the documents across the dining table, right next to Mom's best china. Credit card statements, expense reports, receipts, all carefully highlighted and annotated. This is the penthouse he rented with company funds. This is the Tesla he bought. Here are the Vegas trips, the designer shopping sprees, the $1,000 dinners. Mom shook her head. "He needs to entertain clients. With $1,200 swimming trunks?" I pointed to that particular receipt. "With a $15,000 watch." "Your brother has always had good instincts for business," Mom insisted. "He knows how to make people feel special." Dad had been silent, studying the documents with a deepening frown. "These numbers," he finally said. "Tommy, is this accurate?" Tommy, who'd been sulking at the other end of the table, shrugged. "It's all legitimate business expenses. Alice is just too rigid to understand how modern business works." "That's enough," Dad cut in. He looked tired, older somehow. "Alice is right about the expenses, Tommy. They need to stop." He held up his hand when Tommy tried to protest. "But she's also going to help you learn to run the company properly." I blinked in surprise. "I am?" Dad nodded. "My plan is to eventually split the company between you two. 50-50. But that only works if you both know how to manage it." He looked at me pleadingly. "Will you teach him?" I looked at Tommy, who was staring at his plate, jaw clenched. Teaching him would be like teaching a cat to swim. But I heard myself saying, "Yes, I'll try." Looking at Tommy across the conference room table, I couldn't help but think about our childhood. While I was doing homework, he was racing his friends in the Porsche he got for his 16th birthday. When I spent summers learning the business, he was partying in the Hamptons. Mom and Dad always said he was living life to the fullest, while I was too serious. I remember the Christmas when I asked for accounting software to practice with, and they got me a sweater. Tommy got a jet ski. When I made honor roll, they nodded absently. When Tommy managed to graduate with C's, they threw a massive party. It wasn't that they didn't love me, they just loved him more obviously, more demonstratively, more completely. Now, watching him slouch in his expensive chair during our budget meeting, I saw the results of that upbringing. "Tommy, are you following these quarterly projections?" I asked, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. He glanced up from his phone. Yeah. Numbers going up is good, numbers going down is bad. Can we wrap this up?" "It's a bit more complex than that," I said. "These projections affect our inventory decisions for the next 6 months." He sighed dramatically, but put his phone down. Small victories. I made sure to invite him to every important meeting. Client negotiations, supplier contracts, strategy sessions. If it mattered to the company, I wanted him there. Most of the time, he just sat there looking bored, checking his watch or playing with his pen. But occasionally, he'd surprise me. "Why don't we try importing luxury pet products?" he suggested during one meeting. "Rich people are crazy about their dogs these days. We could mark up the prices like crazy." "The market's already saturated," I explained gently. "And the certification process for pet products is complicated. Another time, we should invest everything in cryptocurrency. My friend made millions last month." I had to take a deep breath before responding to that one. We need more stable investments for company funds. His ideas were usually impractical or too risky, but at least he was thinking about the business. It was more engagement than I'd seen from him in years. During a meeting with our biggest client, he actually paid attention the whole time. Afterward, he said, "You know, you're pretty good at this. The way you handled their pricing concerns." It was probably the first genuine compliment he'd ever given me. "Thanks, Tommy. Want to grab lunch and I can explain the negotiation strategy one used?" "Nah, got plans," he said, already heading for the door. "But maybe next time." I watched him go, thinking about how patterns set in childhood become the architecture of our adult lives. Tommy never had to try because everything was handed to him. I always had to try twice as hard because nothing was. Now I was supposed to teach him what I'd spent years learning on my own. 8 years. 8 years of early mornings and late nights. 8 years of tough decisions and careful management. 8 years of teaching Tommy everything I knew, while simultaneously running the company at peak performance. The numbers told the story better than I could. Profits up 300% since I took over, 5 new branches opened across the state, a client list that had tripled in size. Chin Global Trading wasn't just surviving anymore, it was thriving. Dad's 70th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration of all that success. The private room at Golden Palace Restaurant was packed with family, close friends, and our most important business partners. The same faces who'd watched our company grow from near bankruptcy to industry leader. I'd helped Mom plan every detail, from the traditional red decorations to Dad's favorite 8-course menu. Even Tommy had shown up on time, for once. He'd been unusually quiet lately, but I figured he was just nervous about his presentation of our latest expansion plans. After the Peking duck was served, Dad stood up, tapping his glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. "I have an important announcement," he said, smiling at all of us. "After much thought, I've decided it's time for me to fully retire." There were murmurs of appreciation around the room. Dad had been semi-retired for years, ever since he made me CEO, but he still kept an office and came in for major decisions. "And so," he continued, "it's time to talk about succession. About legacy." My stomach tightened, something in his voice Chin Global Trading has been in our family for 3 generations, passed down from father to son. Today, I'm proud to announce that I'm transferring full ownership of the company to Tommy. The room erupted in applause. I sat there, frozen, as relatives congratulated my brother. This couldn't be happening. Dad, I said, standing up. My voice cut through the celebrations. What about our agreement? You promised to split the company between us. The room went quiet. Dad shrugged, not quite meeting my eyes. The company has always passed through the male line, Alice. It's tradition. Besides, Tommy will make an excellent leader. Leader? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm the one who saved this company. I'm the one who turned it around. Now, dear, Mom, cut in, don't make a scene. Tommy has natural leadership abilities. He'll make a better owner than. Better? I laughed incredulously. Where was his natural leadership when the company was failing? Where was it during the 8 years I spent teaching him basic business concepts? Tommy stood up, straightening his tie. Speaking of which, sis, you should start preparing to hand over your CEO duties. As the new owner, I'll be taking that position as well. He smirked at me across the table, the same smirk he'd had when he got that Porsche for his 16th birthday, when he took credit for my work in high school, when he spent company money like water because he knew he'd never face consequences. You know what? I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You all deserve each other. 8 years I spent fixing Dad's mistakes and covering Tommy's incompetence. 8 years of my life sacrificed for this family's legacy. Alice, Mom gasped. How dare you be so selfish? Selfish? I turned to face her. Was I being selfish when I worked 60-hour weeks to save the company? When I gave up my own career dreams? When I tried to teach Tommy, despite knowing he'd never learn? You're just envious, Dad said coldly. You've always been jealous of your brother. Get out, Mom said, pointing to the door. If you can't be happy for your brother's success, you can leave. I looked around the room at my relatives' uncomfortable faces, at the business partners who wouldn't meet my eyes, at my family's expressions of righteous indignation. Gladly. The next morning, I walked into the office one last time, to clear out my desk. Tommy was there, feet up on his new desk, my old desk, watching me pack. Don't forget to leave your keys, he smirked. I dropped my resignation letter on his desk, without a word. 8 years of my life packed into one cardboard box. Thankfully, I'd always lived well below my means. The savings I'd accumulated bought me a beautiful apartment in the historic district. I decided to take a few months off, something I hadn't done since college. The first signs of trouble at Chin Global Trading started 3 months later. Mrs. Rodriguez called me over coffee. They fired me, she said, hands wrapped around her cup. Tommy said I was too old school in my accounting practices. Over the next few weeks, more calls came. Tommy had replaced most of the senior management with his college buddies. The new CFO was a guy he used to party with who'd barely passed business school. He's back to his old spending habits, reported James, my former VP of operations, who'd also been let go. Bought himself a new Maserati as a company car. But that's not the worst part. The worst part, as it turned out, was Tommy's solution to their first major crisis. When their main supplier raised prices, instead of negotiating or finding a reputable alternative, Tommy switched to a sketchy supplier offering suspiciously low prices. The products are garbage, Sarah from Quality Control told me before she too was fired. Half of them are defective, but Tommy won't listen. Says we're being too picky. Within 6 months, the company had lost 3 major clients. Within 8 months, most of our long-term partners had jumped ship. The carefully built reputation I'd spent 8 years cultivating was crumbling in a matter of months. I heard it all through the grapevine, and I felt absolutely nothing. 1 year to the day after that fateful birthday dinner, my phone rang. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but some remnant of daughterly duty made me pick up. Alice? His voice sounded older, tired. "We need to talk." I waited, letting the silence stretch between us. "Tommy, he hasn't worked out as we hoped." He cleared his throat. "The company's in trouble. Real trouble." "I'm aware," I said flatly. "The business community isn't that big. I'd heard about their latest disasters through my professional network." "We need you back," he said. "You can name your terms. Full control, whatever salary you want." "Tommy will step aside." I couldn't help but laugh. "Now you want me back? After you threw away 8 years of my work because of tradition? This is our family's legacy, Alice. Your great-grandfather's company. You can't just let it die." "My great-grandfather's company died the day you chose your son's ego over your daughter's competence," I replied. "The company I built for 8 years, that's what's dying now. And I don't care." "How can you say that?" His voice rose. "This is your family's business. Your heritage. You have a responsibility." "No, Dad, I don't. Not anymore. You made your choice a year ago. Now you can live with it. Alice, please." I hung up and blocked his number. Then I blocked Mom's number too, for good measure. Looking out my office window at the Manhattan skyline, I smiled. My new business card read Alice Chen, Chief Executive Officer of Morton International, one of the largest import-export firms on the East Coast. I'd been headhunted for the position 6 months ago. "Alice?" My assistant poked her head in. "The board members are ready for your presentation." I gathered my papers, straightening my jacket. The quarterly results were excellent, we'd exceeded all projections, and I had plans to expand into 3 new markets. "Your strategy for the Asian markets is brilliant," Richard Morton, the company owner, had told me last week. "Best decision I ever made, bringing you on board." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, doing exactly what I'd always wanted to do, being valued for exactly who I was. No family drama, no emotional manipulation, no brothers to babysit. Just pure business, run well. News travels fast in family circles, even when you've cut off direct contact. It was my cousin Jennifer who told me over lunch, exactly 2 years after I'd walked out of Golden Palace restaurant. "They've filed for bankruptcy," she said, stirring her coffee. "Tommy had to sell everything, the house, the Maserati, even that ridiculous watch collection of his." I took a sip of my wine, letting the information settle. "And?" "He's moved back in with Aunt Linda and Uncle James. They converted their home office into a bedroom for him." Jennifer hesitated. "They're saying it's temporary, just until he gets back on his feet." I could picture it perfectly, Tommy in his childhood bedroom, Mom making his favorite meals, Dad making excuses for him. Some patterns really do never change. The details emerged over the following weeks through various family channels. The company's collapse had been spectacular, not just a failure, but a cautionary tale that would be whispered about in business circles for years to come. The defective products had led to lawsuits. The mismanaged funds had led to debt. The alienated partners had led to isolation. Everything I'd built over 8 years had been dismantled in less than 2, leaving nothing but debts and broken relationships. "Your father had to remortgage their house to cover some of the debts," my Aunt Maria reported during our monthly phone call. "They're saying you could have prevented this if you'd come back when they asked." I laughed at that, actually laughed out loud in my corner office overlooking Central Park. Morton International had just posted its best quarter in company history under my leadership. The Wall Street Journal had run a profile on me last month, praising my innovative approach to international trade relationships. "They're still not getting it, are they?" I said to Maria. "This isn't about me abandoning them. This is about them never truly valuing what they had." Later that evening, I sat on my penthouse balcony, bought with my own money, earned through my own merit, watching the sunset over the city. I thought about Tommy, back in our parents' house, probably still blaming everyone but himself for what happened. I thought about Dad, who chose tradition over talent, and Mom, who chose favoritism over fairness. I thought about that old black and white photo of my great-grandfather that used to hang in the office. I wondered if they'd managed to save it from the liquidators, or if it had been sold along with everything else. A notification popped up on my phone, another glowing review of our company's performance under my leadership. The headline read, "Morton International CEO transforms company culture, a new era of growth." Should I feel guilty? That's what they all expect, the relatives who still talk to me, the old family friends who whisper about the prodigal daughter who let her family's legacy die. They think I should be torn up inside, haunted by what happened. But I'm not. Because here's the truth about legacies, they're not about buildings, or brand names, or even family traditions. They're about values. My great-grandfather built his company on hard work, integrity, and genuine business acumen. Those values didn't die with Chin Global Trading, they lived on through me, just in a different form.
Hello, my name is Bianca, and I'm 30 years old. The past year has been nothing short of a nightmare, and I'm still recovering from everything. I've been lurking here and reading so many stories, so I thought I'd give it a go and share mine. My story begins with my ex-husband, Shane. I met Shane right after I graduated from college. I had just secured a pretty good position at a well-known company, and Shane and I worked in the same department. He was assigned to be my mentor. The more time we spent together, the closer we got, and I found myself developing strong feelings for him. It turned out he felt the same way about me. I was concerned about company policies and wasn't sure if we would be allowed to be together. But our company was fine with it as long as we didn't let our relationship interfere with work and maintained a professional demeanor. We were happy to comply, and we started dating. Shane was an amazing and charming man throughout our relationship. We dated for about a year and a half before deciding to move in together. I own my own house, thanks to my parents' help, so Shane moved in with me and things were going great. After about 3.5 years of dating, Shane proposed to me and I was thrilled to say yes. The thought of spending the rest of my life with him brought me a lot of joy. We got married in a small, intimate ceremony 6 months after he proposed. Aside from our relationship, my career was soaring. I was bringing in a lot of new clients, which resulted in bonuses and raises. However, I slowly began to notice that Shane was behaving oddly towards me. Whenever I tried to talk to him about it, he brushed me off. After observing him more, I realized he was just jealous that I was earning more money and was more successful than him. I was hurt and upset that Shane viewed me as competition, but I figured he couldn't help how he felt, so I decided to try and help him at work. I gave him some pointers and even helped him secure new clients. He didn't take it well and lashed out at me, accusing me of demeaning him by implying he didn't know how to do his job. So I backed off and let him handle his work. This all happened about a year into our marriage. After Shane lashed out at me, I spent the next few months pouring myself into my work. Our boss announced a promotion opportunity for anyone who brought in the highest number of clients. I wanted that promotion to make life easier for Shane and me. One day, after my shift, my boss called me into his office and told me I was getting the promotion. I was overjoyed and rushed home to tell Shane. Shane had the day off, so he had no idea what had happened. When I got home, I was greeted with a lovely meal. "How was work today, sweetie?" he asked. "I used my free time to make a nice dinner." "That's really sweet," I replied. "I have some great news to celebrate, so I bought us some good wine." "Wow, that's an expensive bottle." "What's the big news?" Today, just before work ended, I was called into the boss's office and told I was getting the promotion. The big promotion everyone's been wanting. Yeah, apparently I outperformed everyone. "We're going to be rolling in money," Shane said. "Seriously, how did you outperform everyone?" "Well, I guess I just worked as hard as I could. You saw how much effort I put in these last few months. I was constantly exhausted for a reason, and I guess it just paid off." "Hold on, are you jealous of me?" No, I'm just a little bummed that I didn't get promoted." "But does it really matter which of us gets promoted? We're both benefiting from it. My money is yours after all." "Sure, but it's not the same." "You cannot seriously be upset at me. I just wanted us to celebrate this big accomplishment. Can we please focus on that?" "You're right," Shane said. Why don't we have an even bigger celebration than this, huh? What do you mean? How about I throw you a huge party for your promotion? We'll invite all our families, colleagues, and bosses. Are you sure? That sounds wonderful, but wouldn't that be like rubbing salt in your wound? I asked. Nah, I'll be fine. Look at you, worrying about me instead of celebrating. Besides, I think I have an idea for a great present to give you. Oh, what is it? I shall give it to you in front of everyone at the party. But for now, how about we have ourselves a nice dinner? I will admit that I was a little upset when Shane let his emotions get in the way of showing his appreciation for me, but he really turned himself around when he decided to celebrate with me. Over the next few weeks, Shane poured himself into planning a party for my promotion. It might be bad to say, but I was surprised that Shane wasn't behaving jealously. I was just grateful that he was appreciating me for once. Shane spent a lot of time outside the house while planning my party. He told me he couldn't contain his excitement and wanted it to be a surprise, so he had been going over to his mother's place to talk about it. Now, Shane's mother, Wendy, and I had a pretty cordial relationship. We weren't super close, but she was a nice lady. On the day of the party, Shane told me he was running a little late because he mistimed his surprise. But he sent me to the venue and had Wendy meet me there. I was genuinely floored when I entered the venue. It was a pretty big hall, beautifully decorated. When I walked in, everyone clapped for me, and I was congratulated by a lot of people. As I was talking to one of my colleagues, Wendy bumped into me and accidentally spilled her wine on me. I'm so sorry I spilled on your dress. I'm so clumsy on my feet, and I've been nervous about coming here for so long. I guess that made me spill on you. It's all okay. Don't worry. I'll just have my assistant get me an extra dress. Wait, why don't you come to the side and let me see if I can do something? No, I don't think anything will help. Please, I feel really bad for what I did. At least let me try. Okay, fine. Wendy pulled me aside, her expression serious. I needed to tell you something important. What do you mean? I need you to tell your security guards to prohibit my son's entry at all costs. What? Why? Shane has been upset that you've been getting so successful. He's been ranting to me about it for so long. Surely you noticed that he was constantly over at my place. I knew he was upset, but I didn't think it was because he was jealous. With every day that passed, his anger only grew. When you told him you were getting a promotion, he lost his mind. But why would he arrange this promotion party in the first place? Because he's planning to embarrass you in front of your boss and colleagues. How? He plans on bringing in some false documents and showing them to everyone to prove that you didn't deserve your promotion. Why would he be that jealous of me? I have no idea. All I know is that he is one angry and jealous man. He will not stop at anything to get what he wants because he wants to be the one who's doing better. I tried my best to stop him today, but he refused to listen. Okay, I need time to process all this. I really get that, but you need to inform your security guards not to let him in at all. Yeah, okay. Thank you for having my back. Of course, sweetie. I couldn't believe what Wendy was telling me, but deep down I knew that what she was saying made sense. Even though my heart was telling me not to listen to Wendy, my instincts were telling me otherwise. So I informed the security guards not to let Shane in. While waiting for Shane to call me, likely to ask why he wasn't being allowed in, I decided to snoop around and see if I could gather any evidence. I approached the man in charge of the projector and told him that I was with Shane. I said Shane asked me to go through what was to be projected, and he let me see what was on the USB that Shane had given him. Wendy was right. There were hundreds of fake documents that, if shown to my bosses, would put me under investigation and lead to suspension. Not to mention, I could have lost my job. I was furious. I kept the USB and told the man to forget about projecting anything else on the screen. After a little more hunting and asking around, I managed to find all the people who would help him, like servers and those in charge of the audio. I had them all write down and sign statements saying they were hired by Shane to do something against me at my party. About an hour after Wendy warned me, Shane called. Bianca, what the hell's going on here? What do you mean? I'm not being allowed in. Apparently, security guards got strict instructions from you to not let me in. Yes. Why don't you head home and we can discuss things there? Why? I wanted to celebrate your big day with you. Look, I don't want to deal with you right now. I know what you've been up to, and I really don't care enough to talk about this over the phone. Are you serious? Do you even know what you're doing? I definitely do. Go home, settle down your jealousy and insecurity. I knew something was wrong, and you refused to speak to me about it. I've had enough of you trying to steal my spotlight. You will pay for this later, but for now I just want to have fun. What are you talking about? Why would I ever do something like that to you? I have heard about your plans, Shane. Who are you trusting more than me right now? Not to mention, I saw what you had planned on the USB you gave the person working the projector. Wow, so you were snooping just to prove yourself right? Do you even have any trust in me? Of course I did. But after tonight, any semblance of trust I had in you has vanished. You can't blame me for it. It's not like you weren't rubbing my face in your accomplishments all the time. I wasn't rubbing your face in anything. I was just sharing my accomplishments with you because you are my husband. I'm sorry I expected you to share in my joy instead of getting jealous. If I did the same thing to you, you would have behaved the same way. I would at least talk to you about it. I would never try to publicly humiliate you or ruin your career. You know what? I actually don't want to see your face for a while. I will see you in a few days. Bianca, you will come back home as soon as your party's done. Or so help me God. If you threaten me, I will never return. Bye. The very fact that Shane had the audacity to threaten me made me see red, but I calmed myself down and decided I was going to enjoy my party regardless of the fact that it was all a ruse to start my downfall. I had a blast, and at the end of the night, I went to Wendy's place. Of course, Shane contacted her, but she told him to stay away from her for a little while and asked him to give me some space. Over the next week, I filed for divorce and waited until I had the papers to go back home. Once I had them, I went back home and was greeted by Shane. You're home finally. Don't try to act happy. I'm not acting. I really missed you and I wanted to apologize for my behavior. You think an apology is enough, Shane? You wanted to destroy my career and my reputation all because you were jealous and insecure. I was just not in the right headspace. That's not even a reasonable excuse. You have to understand, I was struggling a lot. You were being looked at for all the big projects and promotions, even though we were doing the same work. We may work in the same department, but there's a huge difference between our work. Are you saying that I'm not good at doing my job? You said it, not me. Maybe instead of targeting me, he should have thought about why I was getting looked at for everything. I didn't have to actually look at anything. You are a woman and you were just using your wiles to get whatever you wanted. Wow. Do you even know how much revenue I brought in just in the last 3 months? I brought in triple what you did, and I did all my business over emails and calls. How do you suppose I worked my feminine wiles, huh? You must have done some sort of trickery. There's no way that you did so much in so little time. There's a reason I wanted to expose you. And you wanted to do that using fake documents? I couldn't find any actual records, so of course I had to fake some. There's no reason for you to be that much more successful than me. I had to take you down a peg. You really are a piece of work, you know that? You were willing to put down the woman you love all because you let your insecurities get the best of you. They are not insecurities and I'm not jealous, but you have no idea how embarrassing it is to have your wife earning more and being more successful than you. I've been the butt of jokes for so long. Who is making fun of you, Shane? Who? My friends, the ones I meet up with every other weekend. Wow. So instead of dropping your unsupportive friends, you decided to sabotage your loving and supportive wife. You know what? I can't keep doing this anymore. Here, I'm divorcing you. You can't leave me. I only made one mistake, and I apologize for it. This one mistake of yours nearly cost me my career and reputation, and you didn't sound apologetic at all. You were just justifying your actions without even apologizing. You clearly still don't see anything wrong with what you did. Besides, you showed me where your priorities lie, and I'm not even a priority. I'm someone that you have to be better than. I don't think that's a healthy relationship, and I want nothing to do with you. You think this is over? I will ruin you for leaving me. Give it your best shot. I could not believe how dense Shane was. He really did not see why he was wrong and believed what he did was one small mistake. I grabbed my things again and made my way over to Wendy's house, but not before telling Shane he had a week to leave my home. I didn't care where he went, but he needed to be out. Of course, people at work figured that something was seriously wrong between Shane and me, so before the rumors started spreading, I decided to inform everyone that we were getting a divorce. I never told him the reason, but Shane decided that he wanted to ruin my reputation, So he began spewing lies about my morals. He told everyone that I had barred him from entering my party because I didn't want him to steal my spotlight and that I was selfish and jealous. I did not actually plan on ruining Shane's career, but after what he did, I decided to go ahead and show everyone proof of what he planned to do. I emailed our bosses and HR the documents he planned to show everyone along with signed statements from those he hired to help him carry out his plan. I also informed them about the lies that Shane was spreading within the office, leading to lesser productivity on my part and the office in general. It didn't take long for our bosses to decide what was happening. The next working day, Shane was called into the boss's office and was fired. Nothing was funnier than watching him exit the office with his head down. I had an inkling that he lost his job, but I didn't know for certain. My confirmation came when Shane called me shortly after he left to yell at me. "What did you do? What do you mean? Don't try and act as if you don't know what I'm talking about. I know that you're the reason I lost my job. You lost your job. Do not try and act innocent. Well, I'm not confirming or denying anything to you, but you have to admit that there would have been a conflict of interest if you continued to work with us. How dare you? I only attempted to ruin your career. I didn't actually do it. You didn't have to ruin mine. If I remember correctly, didn't you threaten to ruin me for leaving you? I couldn't take my chances, so I protected myself. So you did get me terminated? Well, not only were you a bad employee, but you were also actively harassing and planning the downfall of your colleague and wife. That violates all kinds of work ethics and does not represent the values of the company. Don't throw me all that nonsense. Well, let's just say that I was so upset with you trying to sabotage me that I got you fired. Maybe your tiny brain would be able to understand that. But why? I did nothing wrong. Right, but you could have. Nothing stopped you when we were happily married. So what would you have done when we got divorced? Wouldn't you have tried to do much worse things? I just approached HR with my concerns, and when they had to make a decision between me and you, it wasn't really a hard one. You've ruined my life. I will make you pay for it. I'll take you to court and make your pockets bleed dry. Yeah, and I'm sure that the jury would love to see the evidence of you trying to sabotage my career because you were jealous. That's enough now. I'm tired of listening to you. Goodbye, and do not contact me unless it's through your lawyer if you're contesting the divorce. I was glad that I was able to get the exact reaction I wanted out of Shane. That would teach him not to mess with anyone. Besides, I was not kidding when I said that his career in the company was dying anyway. I was just glad that I was the reason he got thrown out. Shane did try to contest the divorce and get me to pay him alimony because he reasoned that I was the reason he lost his job. Well, I had both evidence of him trying to sabotage my job and statements from my bosses, colleagues, and his mother stating the same. Let's just say the jury definitely did not see the point in his argument. The divorce trials went on for a long time. After it was ruled that I would not be paying him any alimony, Shane wanted to divide everything we owned, down to our spoons and forks. I tried my best to level with him, but he was not having it. I didn't see why he was drawing it out so much, considering he was losing a lot of money himself. I was actually doing pretty great. Finally, I decided to settle and give everything that he wanted, within reason, of course. I still got to keep our house considering it was my name on the deed and title. But for every other thing he wanted, including our bed, I gave it to him. I had more than enough money to afford new things anyway. By the time our divorce was finalized, Shane was pretty much destitute. He was couch surfing at multiple friends' places who eventually all grew tired of him when he stopped searching for jobs. Wendy refused to help him out, so he cussed her out until she had enough and blocked him everywhere. Eventually, when he realized he had nowhere to go, he came crying to me and begged me for help. I refused to help him out because I did not want to be entangled with any of the shenanigans ever again. Last I heard, he's crashing at his aunt's place and finally found a job somewhere. As for me, I'm living a really good and comfortable life right now. Sure, I still feel pains of sadness at what I lost with Shane, but I keep reminding myself that I wouldn't have such a good life if I still had Shane with me. I've been getting therapy to deal with my grief, loss, and anger, and I can happily say that things are going well. Wendy, of course, took it upon herself to make up for her son's actions, but once I had a proper talk with her, she stopped doing that. Now she's become one of my closest friends and a mother figure to me. It'll be a long while before I trust a man again. But until then, I get to spoil myself and enjoy the best life that I can. Hey there, my name's Sophia. I'm 29 years old and I recently gave birth to a child. However, that birth didn't happen without my mother-in-law nearly killing me. I know I sound crazy, but let me explain. Let me start by telling you a little more about my husband, Adrian. We met in college and started dating almost immediately. It was love at first sight, and I knew he was my forever. We had an amazing connection. Nobody understood me the way he did. After we graduated, we moved in together. While I had no complaints about Adrian, I did have several issues with his mother, Becky. Adrian and his family moved to my state from Missouri when he was 12, and they all have endearing Southern accents and different behaviors. I initially excused Becky's horrible treatment of me by attributing it to cultural differences. Becky hated me from the start, mainly because I had taken her precious son away, and also because the rest of Adrian's family adored me. I hadn't done anything special. I just listened to them and remembered what they said for our next meeting. They felt I genuinely cared about them, which I did, boosting my reputation. Becky couldn't stand it and constantly made snide remarks at my expense, belittling all my achievements. When people started defending me, she began doing it in a way only I heard. Adrian quickly stopped this by always being by my side. After about 7 years of dating, Adrian and I decided to tie the knot. We had a small, intimate ceremony, and it was the happiest day of my life. Becky did try to cause trouble, but we quickly shut her down by telling her to behave or be thrown out. After we married, my bond with Adrian's family only grew stronger. Whenever his relatives visited, they stayed with us instead of in hotels, which infuriated Becky. She tried to sabotage me, but no one cared or they stood by my side. It got to the point where Adrian's relatives refused to interact with Becky without us being present. It turned out Becky was horrible to not only me but to her family as well, which was why they preferred spending time with us. 3 years into our marriage, I started experiencing strange abdominal pains. At first, I brushed them off, but they happened randomly, and something told me to get them checked out. It turned out I was 4 months pregnant, which was a huge shock because I didn't look pregnant at all. The weight I gained, I had attributed to the holidays. I was excited to tell Adrian, so I made a fancy dinner and brought out a good bottle of wine. "Welcome home, sweetie," I greeted him. "Whoa, what's going on here? What's with the fancy dinner?" he asked. "Why don't you sit down first? I have some news to share with you." "Okay, should I be worried?" "Absolutely not. In fact, I think you're going to be really happy." "All right, I'm excited." "Spill." "So, you know how I've been having weird pains in my stomach?" "Uh-huh." "Well, I went to the doctor today and she ran a few tests. It turns out my stomach is completely normal." "Oh, what was it then?" "Turns out, I'm pregnant." "What? Oh my gosh, are you serious?" "The best part is that I'm 4 months along." "What? How is that even possible?" "It's called a hidden pregnancy, and I haven't had any other symptoms. I had relatively short periods, but I didn't think that was abnormal. The pains I was feeling were just kicks." "Oh my God, this is big news. I'm so happy." "Me too, and this couldn't be happening at a better time. We're finally doing well financially, and I was going to ask you if we could start trying. Anyway, we're going to have to tell everyone about this. I'm worried about how your mother will react." "What do you mean?" "You know how much she hates me. She hates that everyone loves me. I'm worried that with the pregnancy announcement, I'll get even more attention and she'll hate me even more. If you're okay with it, I'll have a strong word with her about her behavior. You don't have to worry about a thing. The only thing you have to do is enjoy being treated like a princess." I would like that talk and the princess treatment. I say we wait until we find out the baby's gender before we have a celebration, though. I love that idea. Now let's have a little celebration of our own. Adrian and I were over the moon about my pregnancy. We hadn't made any concrete plans, but we had set aside some savings for when we eventually wanted to have kids. We waited another month before telling our families the good news. My family was overjoyed, and so was Adrian's, well, except Becky. Surprisingly, she barely reacted except for scowling at us. We decided to have a gender reveal party at our house. Planning a backyard barbecue and inviting both our families, we chose the traditional cake-cutting method and discovered we were having a boy. I was so happy and eager to start decorating the nursery. At the party, I was treated like a queen, with everyone giving me attention and asking questions. I felt on top of the world. At some point, though, I noticed Becky wasn't around. After asking around, I found out she was inside the house. I went in to find her at the top of the stairs. "Becky, what are you doing here?" "The party's downstairs." "Oh, I'm just trying to find proof." "Proof of what?" "Of your lies." "Excuse me? What lies?" "Come on now. Nobody believes you're really pregnant. You're too tiny to be 7 months along." Every woman experiences pregnancy differently. Just because I'm not as big as you expect doesn't mean I'm not pregnant. Don't lie. You just want everyone's attention. Why would I fake a whole pregnancy just to get attention? And why would I want attention in the first place? I know you're kind. You're jealous that my son pays me attention when I come over, and you want to take that away. Becky, I think you're projecting your feelings onto me, and I don't appreciate it. I have no need for attention because I naturally get it. You're trying to steal from me, and I do not appreciate that. Look, you're stressing me out, and that's not good for the baby. I'm just going to go. Stop trying to steal the spotlight. No one gives a darn about you. What are you? The last thing I remember was her pushing me down the stairs. I felt excruciating pain before passing out. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed with a tube running into my hand and pain in my abdomen. I had no idea what had happened. But thankfully, Adrian was sitting right beside me, asleep in his chair. I coughed a little, waking him up immediately. He looked shocked and relieved to see me awake. "Sophia, you're awake." "Thank God." "What? What happened?" "You fell down some stairs." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I have some really bad news, and I need you to be as calm as you can." "Oh no, how's my baby? Don't tell me something happened to my precious child." "Sophia, sweetie, calm down, please. You lost a lot of blood, and we're struggling to find a suitable donor." "But what about my baby? I need to know if my baby is okay." "Because of how much blood you were losing, they had to induce labor. You gave birth, but..." "How's the baby? I need to see him." "He's in the NICU. He's in good hands. You have nothing to worry about. There's nothing more you can do. Don't blame yourself for anything. Once we get a donor for you, we can focus on our child, okay?" "Yeah, but I'm not blaming myself." "Good. I have someone else to blame." "What do you mean?" "I'll let you know, but could you please bring your mother down here?" "Why?" "Just please don't ask questions. I'm going through enough. Bring her here and tell her everything that happened in front of me. I'll explain everything else after." "Okay, but first let's get you your blood, and then we'll do everything else you wanted." "Yeah, okay." Adrian went to talk to my doctor, and thankfully they found a donor who was willing to donate immediately. The stress of everything made me fall right back asleep after the blood transfusion. I had so many emotions swirling through me, and I didn't know what to make of them. On one hand, I was grateful that my son was still alive, but I also knew he might grow up with some developmental issues. I didn't have a problem with that, but knowing Becky was the reason my son struggled made me feel hot with anger. I was asleep for a good 3 hours, and when I woke up, I felt much better. Once again, Adrian was next to me and immediately rushed to my side when I woke up. "Hi, sweetie. You fell asleep for a little while. How do you feel right now?" "A lot better." "How's our son?" "They've managed to stabilize him. He'll have to be in the NICU for the next 2 months. Will I be able to hold him?" "Not yet, but soon, I promise. Until then, we will definitely get to see him. I saw him, and he looks adorable." "All right, I'm glad that everything's okay. But you wanted to see my mom, right?" "Oh yeah. Is she here?" "She's waiting outside. Shall I bring her in?" "Yeah." Adrian brought his mother into the room. "Hi, Sophia. How are you?" Becky asked, her tone dripping with insincerity. "Not doing so good." "Adrian, did you update her on what happened?" "No, he didn't tell me anything. He just asked me to rush here," Becky replied. "Adrian, could you tell her what happened since I got here?" "Well, Mom, after you came running to us about Sophia slipping down the stairs, she ended up bleeding a lot. She had to be induced so she could give birth to the baby. Thankfully, the doctors and nurses managed to stabilize our son. He's just going to be in the NICU for a while now." "Oh, you gave birth, Pearl. Congratulations," Becky said, feigning delight. "Don't even. Do you have something to say to me and Adrian?" "What are you talking about?" Sweetie, you said Becky came running to you after I slipped, right? Yes, and I'm so grateful that she saw it because none of us heard you fall. Great. Now, Becky, should I be the one to tell him, or will you do it yourself? What is she talking about, Mom? Adrian asked, his voice full of suspicion. Oh, I don't know. She just gave birth. She's probably just making things up. She's probably suffering from mommy brain. Lord knows I had a bad case of it after I gave birth to you. Do not even try to make this into something as arbitrary as that. Adrian, your mother pushed me down the stairs. What? You remember how I went to check on Becky after she had been gone inside the house for a really long time? Yeah. Turns out she was in the house for so long because she wanted to find proof of me faking my pregnancy. Why on earth would you be faking your pregnancy? Apparently, she thought I was stealing her spotlight. I didn't say that. Those were literally the last words you told me before you pushed me down the stairs. Mom, is this true? Fine, I will admit that I was a little jealous of her, but you have to believe me when I say that I didn't think she was actually pregnant. So you willingly endangered the life of my wife and my child because you didn't think something was true. Oh, come on, honey, she didn't even look that pregnant. How was I supposed to know? You can't just push people down the stairs. What if Sophia had hit her head hard enough to cause permanent damage? What would you have done then, huh? I don't know. I'm so sorry. You know what? I don't want you here. I will talk to you after I figure out what is going on in my mind. Becky tried to stay longer, but Adrian was having none of it. All I felt when I looked at her was blinding rage. How could she do something like that to me and my baby? How could she even try to justify her actions? Adrian had Becky escorted out of our room and barred her from visiting me or the baby. He wouldn't stop apologizing for his mother afterward, but I told him he had no reason to apologize. He did nothing wrong, and in fact, did the right thing by cutting her out for now. It took a few days, and then I was discharged. Over the next 2 months, I received a lot of calls from family checking in on me and making sure the baby and I were okay. Adrian and I also spent a lot of time going back and forth to the hospital just to see that our son was doing well. It was a very stressful time. But thankfully, our families were very supportive and helpful in every way. Becky also tried to reach out to us, but we didn't care to respond. We wanted nothing to do with her, and we made that clear. She did not take it lightly, so we had to block her. Finally, after 2 months in the ICU, we were able to take our son home. I cried really hard when I finally got to hold my son, and so did Adrian. Just the thought that we almost lost him made me want to throw up. Word got around that we had brought our son home, and somehow, Becky found out too. She got herself another phone number just to be able to communicate with us. When she saw that we weren't answering those texts either, she decided the best thing to do was to come to our house unannounced. Thankfully, Adrian opened the door. If I had opened it, Lord knows I would have chewed her out and possibly even hurt her for the stress she put my family under. Becky looked haggard and older than when we last saw her. She had tears in her eyes as she begged Adrian to talk to her. Please talk to me. Mom, you need to stop trying to contact us. How can I not? My son won't talk to me, and I don't get to see my grandson. You think you get to see our son? You don't think we're in pain from not being able to hold our little boy? I really am sorry. Please at least talk to me. I thought I was doing something right. How is pushing my wife down a flight of stairs the right thing to do? She's always been trying to steal everyone's attention. I see the way she tries so hard, and it's just so darn hard to keep my anger in check. You have no idea how insane you sound right now. I do not. I was trying to do what was best for you. Best for me? How is this best for me? I always knew you could do so much better than Sophia. I was just trying to get you to see that. By almost killing my child and wife? Are you kidding me right now? What you did was not for me, but because you couldn't handle the fact that there was someone better than you in your family. Sophia is not better than me. Oh, she is in every way. She cooks better food and has a much better temperament than you. Why do you think more of our family has started coming over to our place for Thanksgiving when we host? Nobody can stand you and your entitlement. You take that back right this second. That is no way to speak to your mother. Now I will speak to you the way you deserve to be spoken to. You made our lives a nightmare from the start, and I have been silent about it only because Sophia begged me not to damage my relationship with you. Okay, I get it. I'm a horrible mother. You are. You absolutely are. You're lucky that we're not going to the police about you hurting Sophia and our son. Oh, please, like you have evidence of it. It'll be my word against hers. Who said we didn't have evidence? Don't try and bluff me right now. Look, Sophia and I are exhausted, and we want this time to be as calm as possible. So for the foreseeable future, I do not want to hear from or see you again. Do you get it? You can't do that. I want to see my grandson too. Oh, you are never seeing your grandson. What? You have no idea how much our son is going to suffer thanks to your jealousy. The least I could do is make sure that he never meets the source of his problem. I will fight for my grandparents' rights. Go for it. Bye. Adrian was mad that Becky still had the audacity to show up. If I were in her place, I would never have shown my face to my family. But hey, everyone's different, I guess. Becky did not give up on trying to contact us. Not only would she call and text us a whole bunch of times, but she would also show up at our doorstep and make a huge ruckus until we opened the door. So Adrian and I did the only sensible thing and got a restraining order against Becky. She once again did not like that, but I was so tired by this point that I really did not care. Thankfully, Adrian and I dealt with Becky just in time for us to take our son home. Let me tell you, holding him for the first time made me sob and feel so grateful that he was still alive. Adrian and I decided to use the next few months to just bond with our child. So we didn't let anyone come over to see the baby. Thankfully, after everything that happened, everyone was happy to comply. Becky, however, did not stop trying to bother us. One day, we actually received a summons to come to court because Becky was trying to fight for her grandparents' rights. That threw me into a blind rage. I couldn't believe that she was actually trying to claim grandparent rights when she almost killed me and the grandson she so desperately wanted to see. I asked Adrian to grab the evidence and we made our way to a lawyer's firm. We hired a good lawyer, showed him the evidence, and he told us that we could charge Becky even though we didn't want to do it earlier. After dealing with her harassment for months, we decided to press charges against her. The trial that followed was truly something out of a movie. Becky cried and sobbed at first, claiming we were neglecting her and not letting her visit her only grandson. I could tell that the jury was a little sympathetic towards her, but I knew I had the most incriminating piece of evidence for her. When the footage of her pushing me down the stairs played, everyone in the room went silent and Becky grew pale. After the first hearing, Becky blasted us with calls and texts accusing us of hiding the truth from her. We figured it was in the best interest to block her. After a couple of weeks, Becky was charged with attempted murder of an unborn child and was sentenced to 6 months in jail. All her appeals were denied, and Adrian and I couldn't have been happier. Of course, word got around in Adrian's family as well about what Becky had done, and let's just say that nobody wants anything to do with her anymore. She's going to have a tough time when she's done with her sentence. As for Adrian and me, we're gradually getting used to being first-time parents and loving every second of it. I'm just glad we get to do it stress-free. We are considering moving, but that's a decision to make for a later time. Thank you so much for listening.